Hello, citizens of McPherson County. So this video is in regard to what transpired last night at the candidate forum in Little Switzerland, or Long Lake, as we all know it. There was a fairly good crowd there. I wish there would have been more people that would have attended because there are some important races that are going to be coming up on June 2nd. But it is what it is. People have other lives, and so they, for one reason or another, couldn't make it. So I will say this was my first forum of this nature, and what I prepared for in the brain did not quite correlate with how the format went last night. First of all, I 2 minutes to state a point, for me is just not enough time. I will go overboard sometimes, but that too is what it is. It just gave me a little bit of redirectioning, because the speech that I was going to or had prepared for this, I had to go into the memory banks and correlate my speech with as much as I possibly could with the questions that were asked of us. I also thought that the precinct committee persons that are running should have been allowed to state why they were running. And I will mention that here shortly as to why that should have been important. And so this is what I wanted to discuss last night. First thing I would have brought up was why I was running, or am running, for precinct committee man. And this is my note card that I was going to utilize last night. And for what I wanted to talk about was the PCP, precinct committee person responsibilities. And this is what they are. Serves as a link between the GOP and voters in the precinct. Compile and update voter lists. Contact voters, register non-voters, and participate in general voter contact activities according to the bylaws. Serves as a voting member of the county central committee. And there's one more responsibility, but before I go on to that, what I wanted to point out to the crowd last night is that these first two responsibilities are very important. And the reason why they're important is, if you're not aware, 60%, approximately 60% of the votes taken in this state happen between the east border and the west border of the state, meaning Sioux Falls, Rapid City, Vermilion, Yankton, those big cities. That, of course, leaves 40% with the central part of the state. Now, I can also tell you, and you can look at it, verify it yourself, if you go to City Data, or City Data, however you want to pronounce it, .com, and you plug in a city of the state, or anywhere in the country actually, it will gives you a detailed list of all kinds of information. And it gives you, one of the things that it looks at is how the voting goes for that city. And I can tell you that for Sioux Falls, 42.5% of the voters in Sioux Falls voted for Kamala Harris. 35% of Rapid City voted for Kamala Harris. 52% of the voters in Vermilion voted for Kamala Harris. In fact, City Data lists goes back all the way to 1996, and Vermilion has not voted for a Republican president since 1996. And so that's why these two first responsibilities are paramount for a precinct committee person. We need to make sure that the people get out to vote. If there is anybody that's not registered, we need to make sure that they're registered, because as Sioux Falls grows, as Rapid City grows, we don't know what kind of voters they're going to get. And God forbid, this state could end up as a purple state. I'll also say that Eureka, Leola, and Long Lake voted, what was it? 14.5% of those three towns voted for Kamala Harris. So it's, like I said, these first two responsibilities are important if we want to make the middle of the state just as important in the voting process as the two borderlines. Then the final responsibility: serves as a voting member at the state GOP convention. This is the primary reason why I wanted the precinct committee person to tell the crowd why they were voting. It has been brought out that there is a record number of PCPs running for office this year. Record number. And this GOP convention, the delegate at large, and excuse me, and the PCP members will go to the GOP convention, and they will be voting for two very big races this year. One of them is the Attorney General. The Attorney General. In that race, we have our own state's attorney, Austin Huffman, who's running against Lance Russell. And we also have the Secretary of State position that's also running to hopefully get rid of Monet Johnson. She has done nothing for this state as far as election integrity is concerned. And so my question would be, for the record number of PCPs that are running this year, how many of them are just running so that they can go cast their vote in Rapid City during the GOP convention? If that's the only reason that they're running, and nothing else, then they are doing their counties a disservice. Point blank. So that's what I was going to talk about for the PCP. And then I was going to move on when it came time to why I am running for county commissioner. And I'm running on three main areas: transparency, fiscal responsibility, upholding and obeying the laws. As far as transparency is concerned, Candidate Clipful touched briefly on change and transparency within the board. And I wanted to bring up the fact that I thought, in my opinion, that this commission is using executive session, and they're not the only ones. There's other counties out there, as I stated last night, that I'm monitoring at least 4 to 5 different counties and what's going on with their boards. And they all use executive session greatly. But my question is, in the realm of transparency, are they going into executive session with the guidelines or under the guidelines that is stipulated by state law? Are they just going in to talk about stuff that they don't want us to hear? If that's the case, that's not a good thing. And also for transparency, there's different forms of transparency. This is what I'm looking at. The executive sessions. The other one is projects. It is my opinion that when a project is brought up as an agenda item for somebody that's coming to commissioner meeting for the very first time, it would be nice if somebody would either ask the crowd, are you familiar with this project and what's transpiring? Or they could give a little summarization of what the project is about and what the status is of the project. That way, people don't have to go back into the meeting archives and do countless amount of research to get the whole story on what's happening. I think it would be something simple, and it's again another form of transparency for the citizens out there. I also don't believe, and again, this is across the state, counties across the state. I don't know why or how they established a time frame of 9 a.m. to have their meetings. But I think that meeting time frame should be changed to accommodate more people, to give them the ability to show up at the meetings. That way they don't have to go back and again, look at research if they want to, if they have the capability to go back and do research, looking at the minutes that are posted or listen to the video, which is nice. Having the video is nice because you can go back and take your time and review it. But yeah, so that's my thought on that. Fiscal responsibility. There were some issues brought up during the forum last night about infrastructure. There was a lot of talk about County Road 23. I did bring up, let's talk about that. County Road 23. So it was brought up that funding is short for our roads. And there's a lot of issues that are coming up. The roads are obviously getting to be a big issue. And County Road 23 is a high traffic area. A lot of it coming from North Dakota. It was asked by Mr. Cliffel a while back. He asked the commission to set up a fund because the county is getting load fees. If you're not aware, when their truck goes by, they pay the county. I think they just voted on it to keep it the same. It was either $50 or $75 a load fee. Mr. Cliffel had asked the commissioners to set up a general fund just specifically for that road, to take those fees and put it into that fund and put it towards the maintenance of that road, because it is it's a highly utilized road. It's getting beaten up badly, and this was confirmed by the commissioners when they went out on a road trip 4 weeks ago, something like that. They all agreed that road is getting pretty beat up. So they had the opportunity to take these load fees, put it towards that road, and for some reason, they didn't do it. All that money, from what I understand, went into the general fund to get spent however. Um, so that was kind of, um, that's not very good fiscal responsibility as far as I'm concerned. Um, I brought up the thing about pay raises. Our commissioners have to get paid something, no doubt. They're spending time away from their lives to take care of business for the county, no doubt. They're getting mileage, they're getting medical benefits, and they're getting approximately $8,900 a year for being a commissioner. Unless you're the chairman, then it's just over 9,000, if I remember correctly. This has always been a sore point with me, as I stated, at the city level, the county level, the state level, and especially the federal level. How many members? Let's take Walmart for example. How many employees in Walmart get together and they decide, hey, I want a pay raise? So they go to their management and they say, hey, we've decided that we want a pay raise, so yeah, you're going to give us a pay raise. There are not very many employees in this country that have that opportunity, other than what it appears, political officials. That, to me, needs to change, especially at the federal level. If they want a pay raise, then it should get voted on by their constituents and let them decide whether they want to give the federal officials, our Congress, the state legislators, the county commissioners, or the city council members a raise. This idea of them just voting in a raise every year, I have an issue with that. And if I become a commissioner, I will never vote for a raise. I think the salary is at a good level, and I don't think we need to waste any more dollars, taxpayer dollars, on raises. Also, it was brought up while I'm on the subject. It was brought up about what I got out of it was any way to save funding when it comes to other offices within the courthouse. I was not going to say yay or nay on that because I don't know for sure the makeup of the offices and the employees that are in them. For me to make a decision like that, it would be something that I would look into, that's for sure. Do a manpower study, and do an audit of what's going out or what's coming in. But last night was not the night for me to make that decision, for that reason. Also, I was going to bring up, when it comes to fiscal responsibility, I'm not sure if you're aware. It was brought up about the election integrity issues, and I'm going to talk about that in here shortly, about upholding and obeying the laws. Our county commissioners, for some reason, our county commissioners, even though we have a state's attorney that we pay a hefty amount of money to every year, even though he only works 2 days a week, they thought it was necessary to bring in another attorney from Rapid City, from Gunther Palmer and L Limited. It's a big name. For some reason, they decided to bring in this attorney, probably at the recommendation of the state's attorney. Who knows? And she was instrumental, Sarah Frankenstein, was instrumental in helping the state's attorney to convince the commissioners to reject the petition of the voters that was sent to them. And again, I'll get into that some more. So the county commissioners hired this woman, and the county commissioners took approximately somewhere in between $8,000 and $9,000 that they paid for her services. For what? Why did we spend that kind of that amount of money for her to come in on a Zoom call? I don't know what other assistance they provided to the county. She had provided to the county, but why did we spend between $8,000 and $9,000 on for her to come in, participate in a Zoom call to convince our commissioners to reject the election integrity petitions of the citizens? Another blatant misuse of taxpayer funds. I can bring up some more, but I think for now that's a good start. And those are two very well. Let me bring up the other one. And I brought this up I briefly touched on it last night. It was the Eureka building. And I put this in another video as well. I see no reason for us to have purchased a building in Eureka for basically two employees, the state's attorney and the sheriff's department. 4 or 5 employees, if you count the deputies. 6 employees, if you count the deputies. I believe that was a gross misuse of taxpayer funds, especially when every commissioner meeting on the agenda is the expenses that are going out for the upkeep and maintenance of the courthouse in the county seat. But again, this was voted in for some reason, and I just think it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. Some may think otherwise, but I think we could have utilized that funding for a lot more important issues. Okay, so upholding and obeying the laws. As I mentioned, and it appears I got the ball rolling. In March of 2024, the GOP committee, county GOP group, went out to the citizens of the county, and they collected over 240 signatures on a petition that had 6 line items on the petition. I don't remember all the line items. And they wanted the commissioners to get rid of the machines. They wanted the commissioners to go to hand counting. And on April 2nd, before they cast their vote, they went into executive session after listening to Sarah Frankenstein. And the state's attorney had a discussion with them. And let me point out that prior to them going into executive session, it was mentioned by the state's attorney on numerous occasions, and he did this with Sarah Frankenstein in other counties as well. It's all documented. It's on video. He went and told the commissioners that, if you guys allow this, and I'm paraphrasing, if you guys allow this petition to go through, I can pretty much guarantee you that the ACLU is going to file a lawsuit against the county. And I think that's all it took. And I'm pretty sure that when they went into executive session, that this was discussed. And they came out of executive session, and every commissioner at that time in 2024 illegally rejected the petition of the citizens. The law, as I stated last night, 7-18A-13, states that if a petition comes to the commissioners, it has to be brought to the auditor first. The auditor reviews it for accuracy and then gives it to the commissioners. The commissioners then vote on it, and they set up a date for when the topic, the subject at hand, whatever the petition was for, goes to the voters at the next election. That's the law. That's the law. And I'm going to bring up something that was brought up about that by Commissioners Fikert and Newharth here shortly. And so this is why I kept pushing the issue, because as I stated, this was one of the main reasons that I'm running for commissioner, is because they're not upholding the laws. And they denied the First and 14th Amendment of the citizens of the county. And then I wanted to bring up, after that, there was a lot of, and this correlates somewhat on their decision that they did in 2024. So there's been a lot of talk about lowering taxes, property taxes within the state. Our governor candidates have been talking a lot about it. Our state legislators, some of them, have been talking about it. And there was quite a few bills about the property taxes, and I'll be doing another video on that. But there was one in particular, Mr. Hansen, part of his campaign was said to lower property taxes. There is $120 million sitting in some type of housing fund, and he wanted to take $60 million of that and put it towards property tax relief. Now, our governor, his intentions for that money was to give it to two airports, loan it to two airports, one in Sioux Falls and one in Rapid City. And I'll just add, as I found out yesterday as I'm going through the bills, that there was actually another bill, and I don't have the number in my head right now. There was a bill that was approved and signed by the governor to give these two airports $15 million each. They call it economic development. $15 million each on a 20-year loan, 0% interest. So $30 million of our taxpayer money is now available to the airports of Rapid City and Sioux Falls, and they have 20 years to pay us back, the taxpayer. Our money, $30 million of our money, 20 years, 0% interest to pay it back. And so there was, let me go back. I digressed. So there was a bill about property taxes. As I mentioned, Mr. Hansen had an idea for $60 million. And there was actually a bill that was proposed by him. It's HB 1261 to take $60 million as I stated, from the housing fund to put into property tax relief. Well, they ho-hummed around on it, and Representative Nostrup, I hope I pronounce Nostrup, from Brown County, amended the bill to read, instead of 60 million, he amended it to say $101. So we went from 60 million to $101. Well, obviously that was crap, a crap amendment, and it basically killed the bill, and it did. It killed the bill. Didn't go anywhere. So in the interim, what our state legislators did was they basically kicked the can down the road. And they said, and I'm talking to myself, we don't know what the hell to do with this property tax relief. Yeah, we talk a good game. We want to tell our constituents how we really are concerned about property tax relief, but we just can't decide. So this is what we're going to do. And they did it. SB, Senate Bill 96. They kicked the can down the road and they said, county commissioners, it's now your responsibility. We're giving you the authority to go ahead and raise your county's sales tax by 0.5%. And whatever they generate, whatever money is generated for that, you can go ahead and put that through for property tax relief. And I can tell you that our Representative Gosh and Senator Mark Lopke voted against that. And if I had the opportunity as commissioner in McPherson County, I would vote against it as well for these reasons. This 0.5% sales tax is fine if you're living in Minnehaha County or Pennington County next to an interstate, and you've got, let's say, Pennington County, where you've got 4 million tourists that go through that county, Custer County, every year, and you raise your sales tax 0.5%, yeah, you're gonna get a lot of money out of that to put towards property tax relief. Same thing with Sioux Falls, right on I-29. They're going to get a lot of out-of-staters coming through to help pay for their property tax relief via the sales tax. McPherson County, other small counties. I mean, other than hunting season, where we've got an influx of out-of-staters coming in, we're not going to generate that much in sales tax. So basically, what ends up happening is the citizens of McPherson County and these other small counties are going to be paying sales tax, additional sales tax, in order to compensate for the property tax relief. So basically, we're paying for our own property tax relief. And so this was a bad bill. This was our legislators' way out. They couldn't make up their mind how to do it, and so they put it on the county commissioners. And so, where am I going with this? So, eventually, our county commissioners are going to have to deal with this, because now they've been given authority to raise our sales tax by 0.5%. There's stipulations with this. If they vote on this and they decide that they want to go through with this sales tax, they have to formulate an ordinance. And once that ordinance is written, it has to go out to the voters for approval. The voters have to be given a chance to vote on it. Excuse me. In here lies the problem. Number one, are the commissioners going to vote it in and raise our taxes, our sales tax, to pay for our property tax? And what my other issue is, they rejected the petitions of the citizens in order for us to be able to vote on election integrity. Are they going to bypass writing this ordinance and allowing the citizens to vote on this measure if they voted in place? That's where I'm going with this. It's a big decision. At this point in time, I can't tell you for sure how it's going to go. I really can't. So these are the things that I had written down and I was going to bring up, but it got derailed. But then there's some other things that I want to point out. I found some of the answers by Commissioner Fikert and Commissioner Newharth very interesting, and in some cases I'm going to bring up very misinforming, which is concerning. So let me go through those. Mr. Commissioner Newharth, when we were discussing about election integrity and hand counting and them breaking the law, Commissioner Newharth mentioned something about, and I'm paraphrasing, he was concerned about the handicapped voters being disenfranchised for some reason. I found that interesting, and for many reasons, but there are no. I don't see where they would be disenfranchised. Voting and hand counting is two separate procedures. They're not intermingled. One has to happen before the other does. So where the handicapped person would not be able to vote, from what I understand he was trying to say, makes no sense to me. Also, number one, for the reason that there are no electronic voting machines for McPherson County. Everything's done on a paper ballot. Handicapped people, people in nursing homes, disabled people, they can all vote via absentee voting. I don't know where he's coming up with this. Also, if he's not aware, and I pointed this out before, 52 USC 10508 specifically states how to handle voting for people with disabilities. I'm not sure if he's not aware of that. So the fact that he brought this up, saying that somehow disabled people wouldn't be able to vote, is irrelevant, because it has nothing to do with hand counting and them breaking the law in rejecting the petition. I found that rather interesting. If this is what he's telling his constituents, then he's misinforming them. Then it was brought up by Mr. Fikert about a judge overturning a lawsuit about state law 7-18-13, saying commissioners don't have to allow the petitions to move forward to a vote. This was misinforming the people in Long Lake last night, and if he is telling his constituents this, he is also misinforming them. Number one, the rejection of the petition of McPherson County, there was appeals. There was appeals. I'll say that right now. But those appeals happened after the commissioners rejected the citizens' petition. So how he can cite that was the reason for why they rejected it, the petitions, doesn't ring true. Now, as I said, the appeals, there was 2 court appearances in regard to election integrity. I did some research on that, but they were appeals, but the first appeal was rejected due to a procedural issue. You know how the courts and the judges have to have everything perfectly, gotta dot them I's and cross those T's, and if you don't, they get lazy and they throw the case out. So the first case was thrown out for procedural issue. It was filed again, and it was denied res judica, meaning that the judge didn't want to litigate the claims or the issues that have already received a judgment on the merits. So basically he said, you brought this to me before and I already decided on this. Don't bring it to me again. But there was no ruling, as Commissioner Fikert states, there was no ruling saying by the judge that the commissioners had the right to deny a petition. I also want to add that when Sarah Frankenstein and our state's attorney went from county to county to county to county while this was all going on, that they were stating a decision made by the state Supreme Court, basically saying the decision was that the commissioners do not have the authority to make the decision on these petitions, election integrity petitions. What Sarah Frankenstein and our state's attorney failed to tell the people, or just didn't want to tell the people, transparency, is that the Supreme Court cases that they were citing were in fact zoning ordinance cases. They had nothing to do with election integrity. And in zoning board cases, zoning ordinance cases, of course, the county commissioners are not going to have authority to make those decisions. But they commingled election integrity with this state Supreme Court cases and ran with it. And that's what they were telling the commissioners. And that's on videos. It's on videotape. You can watch Lawrence County. I don't remember them all. Fall River, I think, was one of them. Or Sarah Frankenstein chimed in, and Mr. Huffman even cited that Supreme Court case to me in emails between each other back in the day. So that's wrong. Bottom line is, our county commissioners, and I will keep saying this until people finally realize it, most of the people, our county commissioners and other county commissioners throughout the state broke state law 7-18A-13 when they rejected the petitions of the citizens. In fact, Mr. Newharth has said in his discussions with Jody Wallman, has said that he knows he broke the law, but at the time he felt that the vote that he cast was the right vote. It was a vote that he cast because he was influenced by a state's attorney with the idea that the ACLU was going to come after the county if they let the petition go through. Done talking about that. That's the truth. That's the fact. Facts. Again, I don't know why our two commissioners are misinforming their constituents. Then Commissioner Fiker brought up that how this came about, that Sheriff Ackerman is doing a great job. Okay, that's his opinion, and he's entitled to it, and it is what it is. But how do we know that? How do we know what kind of a job our sheriff is doing and the deputies? In many other counties, I can tell you, Edmonds County for sure. There are others. I don't know if all the counties do, but there are counties that do it. They post a number. They have a Facebook page, and they post the number of arrests and what the arrests were for on their Facebook page. It's open to the public. You can go in, and I believe if I remember correctly, it's a monthly tally. Yeah, has to be a monthly tally. Anyway, how do we know what the sheriff is doing here? We don't know. Nothing's posted. I would think that the citizens of McPherson County should have the ability or the availability to go to something like this, to see what is happening in their neighborhoods. You know, what kind of arrests are made, what the arrests are for, if it's in their area. I'm just saying that I'm not going to dispute the job that Sheriff Eric Ackerman is doing. I'm just not seeing any proof of what's being done. Just wanted to put that out there. Then Commissioner Fikert brought up the word civility. He did not elaborate as to where this lack of civility was coming from. What was it coming from the commissioners board? That's why I interjected my thought about that I monitor different county commissions, 3, 4, 5 of them, something like that, and that those commissioner boards they definitely are at each other's throats. So I'm not seeing that here. Maybe I'm not seeing it correctly. So is he talking about the civility of the people, the citizens of McPherson County? This is another reason why I brought up or mentioned that there are entities in this county trying to divide the people. And this is why it's important. I'm going to go back to the PCPs. This is why it's important for us to rally, to get our votes out, to get people registered, to keep people together, united, to combat the 60% of the votes that are happening around us. So civility with this division, the entities that are trying to divide the people in this county, this plays into the hands of the 60% out there that are going to vote however they feel, to do whatever they feel for their county or for the state. I think Long Lake, the forum in Long Lake last night, and I'm going to coin Long Lake as the Switzerland of McPherson County, because I believe that was the perfect spot for the candidate forum last night. It's in between two major towns, Eureka and Leola, of course, and it gives the opportunity for citizens to not have to travel very far that could have attended this forum. If the civility or lack thereof is coming from the people, then what are the commissioners doing to prevent that? Our county GOP, when they have meetings, for the most part, the meetings, the people that show up for the meetings are generally the same people every time. The GOP group is a welcoming group. They welcome anybody that wants to attend the meetings, and I don't see any lack of civility in those meetings. These are a group of people. This is a group of people that are highly concerned about what is happening in the county, the affairs that are happening in the county. Is Commissioner Fiker taking on this position of a lack of civility as a defense, as a method of victimhood? It comes to my mind. Usually when people can't win a debate or win an argument, they claim victimhood. If Commissioner Fiker is claiming this lack of civility for the simple reason that people are standing up and holding the commissioners accountable for their actions, that is not telling for the definition for the lack of civility. Does Commissioner Fiker believe that if we hold the commissioner accountable, that we're not civil? Does the commissioner or commissioners believe that we should just be quiet and not challenge their decisions? I'm sorry, but when the mayor of Eureka came into the committee meeting on March 10th and stood up and made a comment that her and approximately, supposedly, 100 other people give the commissioners their unwavering support, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go down that path. If our commissioners or any of our elected officials are doing something that we perceive as not right, then it is our responsibility to let them know that we don't agree with the decision they made. What transpired over the last 2 years with this election integrity stuff? I have only seen hostilities coming from the people that don't agree with what has been done to uphold election integrity in the county. I mean, we have a state's attorney out there that his disdain for the people in this group that have been trying to instill election integrity in the county is beyond reproach. It's very unprofessional. There are not people out there in this county running around with pitchforks demanding anything. This group that is challenging the commissioners and trying to make the county better, whether it deals with fiscal responsibility, upholding the law, and transparency, that should be welcomed across the county. And I just found that a very unhealthy comment by Commissioner Fikert, especially when he just threw it out there and didn't elaborate as to where this lack of civility is coming from and how he arrived at that decision. Anyway, people, that's about all I have. I just wanted to get this out there and explain to you what happened and my thoughts as far as how it went, how it broke down last night. We'll see what happens on June 2nd. It will be interesting. Anyway, thanks to the people that showed up last night. Thanks to the people that listen to these videos. It's very much appreciated. We got a lot to do. Mr. Cliffel, in a lot of his statements last night, he talked about changes. I am not one that likes to change something just for the sake of changing things. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But there are many issues that I brought out now, and many issues that I have not discussed yet that need some changing. It's not change for the sake of changing. It's change because it is warranted. Yeah, that's all I got, people. Have a good day. Have a good week. Have a good, we're in the, 1st of May. Have a good month. Catch y'all later. And until my next video.